Hello, my name is Matt Allard. I'm Director of Strategic Alliances for Dell's Performance PC Group. That includes our Dell Precision Workstations, as well as our Latitude Rugged offerings. And today I'm going to spend a little bit of time with you talking about a topic that I think is near and dear to many of our customers' interests, and something that I think you may find informative. And really, the topic is all about choosing the right workstation and the right graphics card. In our experience, this is our number one question. What is right for me, for what I do in SolidWorks? And we're going to try to break that down in this session and give you a little bit more information. So I want to start by saying, Dell has an incredible precision workstation portfolio. Lots of form factors, including towers, mobiles, and rack-mountable workstations. And if you don't have a grounding in our workstation lineup, what you should know is they break down into three series: 3000, 5000, and 7000 series. And generally, as you go up the series, you get higher performance and higher expandability. And so you'll see that's pretty common across towers, mobiles, and racks. One small kind of finesse point here on the mobiles is that 5000 series for mobiles also means thin and light. And so you'll find that those are kind of our highest design. We're trying to make them as thin and light as possible, but still keep them kind of workstation grade performance and components. And you'll see a little bit of that later on. Now, a big part of what we do is to enable those machines with incredible graphics cards from NVIDIA. And so we provide NVIDIA RTX graphics cards, professional graphics cards in every form factor. So whether that's desktop, where we offer everything in the lineup from the A2000 all the way up to the A6000, to the mobile, again, where we offer A2000 all the way up to A5000, and even in the data center products. Now, I don't work in the group at Dell that builds our PowerEdge servers, but we also provide NVIDIA's data center cards there, things like the A16 and the A40. So you really have choice across the entire product line, and that choice is going to be important as we work through the kind of right configuration for your workflow. Now, the reason that we have partnered with NVIDIA and RTX is so important is that they really have built functionality into RTX that's makes sense for our customers and their workflows, whether that's real-time ray tracing, AI acceleration, and kind of covering the applications you use. There may be other applications you use along with SolidWorks, and in all likelihood, those have gone through the enterprise reliability of ISV certifications. So that's the certifications that Dell and NVIDIA jointly work on to make sure the software is just going to work. We do a lot of that through enterprise level drivers, predictable drivers that will just run, you can deploy with confidence. And of course, having the support that you need. Enterprise support from Dell and NVIDIA is really critical for people who are banking their business on getting their work done. And of course, productivity tools, whether that's the Dell Optimizer for Precision or Dell Premier Color, or collaboration tools like NVIDIA's Omniverse or their NVIDIA Broadcast app. All of these things add to the hardware. It's not just about the hardware, it's also about the software, the drivers, the support and services that surround it that really deliver for professionals who need to count on their workstation every single day. Just a quick overview of the desktop family of GPUs from NVIDIA. It starts with the NVIDIA RTX A6000. This is an incredible performer. You can see the numbers. Huge amount of VRAM with 48 gigabytes. And in fact, you can NVLink two of these together in some of the Dell machines for up to 96 gigabytes of addressable VRAM, really enough to manage even your largest design. This is a dual slot card, so it needs a little bit more space in the machine. Same with the RTX A5000, sort of one step down, still an incredible performer. Dual slot machine can be NVLink together with another A5000 to give you 48 gigabytes total addressable VRAM. you get into a single slot configuration with the NVIDIA RTX A4000. And so this gives you the opportunity to add more of these cards. Again, a great performer, really a popular card. It's a real mainstream workhorse kind of card with 16 gigabytes of VRAM and great performance overall. And then one of the most exciting cards is one that was recently announced by NVIDIA and added into the Dell Precision product lineup, and that's the NVIDIA RTX A2000 card. This is a low-profile card that really delivers incredible performance. It's a big step up from its previous generation. The previous generation at the 2000 level didn't have any of the RTX capability. So adding RTX is huge in this space, and it gives huge benefits. Really a significant upgrade overall. You'll see that on this next slide. So overall, for SOLIDWORKS, NVIDIA is really, really important. NVIDIA really helps in driving performance in what is the GPU accelerated graphics pipeline in SOLIDWORKS, delivering high performance shading, physics capability, real view, 8K multi-display support. So if you need a whole lot of display real estate, professional GPUs from NVIDIA is the way to get it. Doing VR, stereoscopic 3D, AR, all sorts of that capability really needs the kinds of performance that you get with precision in NVIDIA graphics. And of course, when you start getting into visualization, RTX ray tracing and using the AI tensor cores to do accelerated denoising is going to give you a much faster result to visualize. And you can see that in the charts at the bottom here. Just in your basic desktop performance, manipulating geometry, I want to draw your attention to the bottom there where you see the P2200 and the RTX A2000. It's about 50% faster in your basic geometric modeling kind of activity in CAD, which we're going to talk about a little bit momentarily. But in visualization, using SOLIDWORKS Visualize, it's even greater, where we're getting up to like 3 times the performance over the previous generation, the T2000 on the laptop. So really amazing performance levels, which is why we are so excited about NVIDIA graphics in our lineup. So with that background, this returns us to the question, how do I figure out what's the right workstation for me when I'm running SOLIDWORKS? And the answer to that's, really you got to be a bit more specific about what you're doing in SOLIDWORKS. And so we talk about use cases as a way to really get closer to the ideal machine. And we'll give you a few hints about where there's variables in those workflows, in those use cases. So let's talk basically about SOLIDWORKS 2022. Just released. I'll say over the last couple of releases, SOLIDWORKS has really moved to advance the performance. And one of the ways they've done that is by shifting functions to the GPU. And so you'll see in 2022, for instance, improved performance and model fidelity when you're working on those really big assemblies. And in fact, SOLIDWORKS is claiming this release is the fastest graphics yet, with improved display response and quality overall. And so this is one of the things that we look toward when we think about balancing the system for the kind of work that you do. So let's first look at SOLIDWORKS being used for basic CAD. If you're doing basic model design and assemblies, the reality is that most of that in SOLIDWORKS is lightly threaded on the CPU. And what that means is when you have a lot of CPU cores, it doesn't really pay attention to them. It uses fewer cores, essentially, mostly one. And so when you're picking your workstation, you can focus on fewer cores. You don't need piles and piles of CPU cores. What you need is a handful of fast cores. And so in this case, 48 CPU cores for most CAD work is great. And look at the clock speed. 3 gigahertz or faster is where you want to be. And you want that to be your base clock speed. Sometimes you'll see turbo clock, and you'll occasionally get into that turbo mode. But if you want to have guaranteed performance, look at that base clock speed of 3 gigahertz, or ideally faster than 3 gigahertz. That'll really let your CAD functions move very quickly. Because of the work that SOLIDWORKS has done in 2022 on moving functions to the GPU, you really want to consider a professional grade NVIDIA RTX Ampere graphics card, at least an RTX A2000 and above. Now, it's not just the CPU and GPU that matter in these systems, it's also the storage. So picking fast storage is going to help load and save times. So using NVMe M.2 SSDs. These are the fastest kinds of SSDs you can get. You'll sometimes see SATA, SATA SSDs. Those are great because the SSDs are fast, but the interface, the SATA interface is not as fast as the NVMe interface. So we always like you to choose that NVMe interface if you have a choice. It's what we favor in precision workstations. For CAD work, you really want to think about 16 gigabytes of RAM at a minimum, but a lot of cases, 32 gigabytes is going to be recommended. Some of these machines, you want to pay attention to the RAM configuration, how many memory channels are in the machine. By putting RAM DIMMs in each one of those channels, you're going to maximize your memory throughput. Again, some of the variables you might consider when building a system is how big are your designs, how big are your and complex are your designs and assemblies. When you get more complex, when things tend to get bigger, you want to pay attention to more GPU VRAM, so a higher level graphics card, and more basic system memory, the RAM. So how about some actual specific suggestions? So I'm starting with one of my favorite machines in the Dell lineup. That's the Dell Precision 5560 mobile workstation. This is one of our smallest and thinnest workstations. It starts at just about a hair over 4 pounds. Really beautifully designed machine. But again, it's a workstation and it's designed like a workstation. This would be great for CAD with up to 8-core Intel Core or Xeon processors. And again, these are processors that are running at 45 watts, so they're high-performing processors. And NVIDIA RTX A2000 graphics is what I recommend here. We've been talking about the importance of RTX, and this is the entry point for RTX with the A2000 mobile. Now, you'll notice I've noted the wattage here. We try to run these at as high wattage as possible. That's how you get higher performance. At 65 watts, we're able to run this card at a great performance level. Not all systems can run graphics cards at this performance level, especially in such a thin and light design. And we do that by having a really innovative cooling mechanism. Keeping these systems cool is how you keep them running at that highest level of performance. You note here I've got the capacity for a couple of NVMe drives, good to start with one, and up to 64 gigabytes of memory. So you could start with 16 or 32 and have a really solid CAD machine in an amazing thin and light package. Now, I'll also point out on the far right, this infinity edge display. What we mean by that is that there's really no bezels on all 4 sides. It's a really incredible kind of all display sort of environment. It also has a really great display. You can get up to a 4K display on this with 100% Adobe RGB color space coverage. What that means is, you really, if you're using this machine to do visualization or basic render tests, you can actually see the results with full color gamut. It's got some nice software like Premiere Color on top of it. And you'll note this mention of Comfort View. Comfort View is a hardware technology that reduces blue light emissions from that screen, which has been shown to fatigue your eyes. It's not great for your eyes or your vision. And so this is a nice capability that we've added into the system. So when you start thinking about the entire experience, the screen, the panel matters too. Of course, latest generation Wi-Fi capability, so when you're wireless, it's going to run great. So that's a nice mobile suggestion for CAD. I love this suggestion for desktop. This thing's just barely desktop because it's so small. I've put a photo of a coffee cup in here just to indicate how small this really is. It's about the size of a hardback novel. But again, for CAD, this checks all the boxes. You can configure this with up to 10-core Intel Core or Xeon CPU. And it will cover RTX 3000 graphics card. So really up to the task of a lot of CAD work. You can get up to 64 gigabytes of RAM in it. You can get 2 of those M.2 SSDs in it. And it does, like all precision, feature our Dell Optimizer for Precision software, which really is aimed at delivering more out of the hardware by kind of using AI to understand what you do day to day on the machine and tuning the performance of the machine to your specific tasks. So really nice machine, really amazing support overall. And again, great for CAD workflows on SOLIDWORKS. So let's take a look at a different kind of workflow. And actually, I've kind of lumped several products and workflows together. This is SOLIDWORKS simulation, SOLIDWORKS CFD, or SOLIDWORKS plastics workflows. And the reason I've lumped these together is, one, they drive a bit higher hardware requirement for running these and having a great experience. And mostly these products tend to be more CPU driven. And so the GPU becomes a little less important, still important. You still want a professional level GPU card in here, but you definitely want to pay a lot of attention to the CPU and the number of CPU cores that you have in the machine. And so if you're running SOLIDWORKS simulation, you want to think about something with at least 12 CPU cores or more. For CFD, 16 CPU cores or more. And for plastics, this really pushes the CPU hard. You want 32 CPU cores or more. And it does top out at 64 threads. And so, that's about as much as you're going to need. But again, your results may vary. You might want to add more cores as your design and assembly complexity increase, or your simulation complexity increases. A good GPU here, RTX A4000 and up. Again, these workflows demand a bit more. I always recommend NVMe, the M.2 SSDs. And here your RAM, your baseline is 32 gigabytes. You probably want to be thinking about more than that, especially as your complexity rises. So let's talk about specific systems. Now, I know a lot of people don't think about running simulation CFD or plastic analysis on a mobile, but I like to point out this Precision 7760 mobile workstation. It really is built to be a desktop replacement. And while it doesn't have really high core counts, it certainly is possible to run those kinds of workflows on it. And the idea of being able to run those on the road, in the field, or at home is one of the compelling reasons people select the Precision 7760. So it does top out at 8 cores. So, it's not the highest core count, but what's really nice is that it does support higher level RTX graphics cards, including the A4000 or A5000 mobile. And you'll notice we run those at an amazing 115 watts. You can only do that when you've got incredible cooling capability. You need a little bit of a bigger chassis to do that. And this is why this is a little bit bigger. It's not our 5000 series thin and light. You'll see it's about a little over 6.5 pounds. But this is an incredible performer with some nice expandability. Up to 4 M.2 SSD cards, and you can see up to 128 gigabytes of RAM. And so for those kinds of simulations or analyses, having plenty of RAM is part of what this is all about. Again, you can get great displays, a 4K display with 100% Adobe RGB, like the thin and light that I showed you earlier. One notable thing here is that this does have an option for 5G LTE. So again, in the spirit of being mobile, if you wanted to be on a high performance wide area network, that's one of the ways you can get it, is with that optional 5G card. So I wanted to kind of plant a seed that, having high performance mobile is a real enabler for some of these workflows that you might not have thought was possible on a mobile previously. Now, the real powerhouse from a desktop standpoint is our Precision 7920 tower. This has been the world's most powerful workstation for some time, with up to 56 cores available. And this is done by supporting 1 or 2 Xeon processors. So with 2 processors with 28 cores each, you get to that total of 56 cores. And here, while you may not need it for your simulations, you can get up to 3 RTX A6000 graphics cards in this machine. So it's a beast. Not only does it have the physical space to fit them, but it has the power supply. And that's really the key issue here, is that once you start adding multiple graphics cards and these high core count processors, you need the power supplies, you need the cooling, to actually run those at speed. Huge expandability choices for storage, huge expandability for RAM with up to 3 terabytes of RAM. So this is really your high performance computing platform, really an amazing machine with a great expandability, and kind of is the top use case for people running the most complex kinds of analyses on SOLIDWORKS simulation, CFD, and plastics. Okay, so let's talk about another workflow. And this is, again, a little bit different in what demands it puts on the workstation. SOLIDWORKS Visualize really is about GPU. It is a GPU-based photorealistic renderer. I'm sure if you're here, you already know that. What you may not know is that it's based on iRay under the hood. And so it ultimately is optimized for NVIDIA's Pro graphics cards. What's really nice about SOLIDWORKS Visualize is that it can scale across more than one GPU. So if you're not getting enough performance, you know that you can add a GPU to the environment, as long as your workstation supports it, and you can accelerate your performance. And so one of the things that I will point out is we're so excited about the NVIDIA RTX A2000. I know I mentioned it before, but not only does it has a very high CUDA core count with over 3,300, and CUDA cores are the ones that manipulate geometry. They're the ones that basically handle your model in your viewer. When it comes to rendering, it can leverage 26 ray tracing cores and 104 tensor cores. This simply was not available in the previous generation. So with those capabilities, along with 6 gigabytes of VRAM, this RTX A2000 card is really great for visualization workflows as well. And so, what we're seeing is up to 3 times faster performance in doing ray tracing workflows over the previous generation P2200. So, doing ray trace rendering, obviously something very interesting for SOLIDWORKS visualization workflows. And this A2000 is really a new entry point for RTX functionality and a really exciting capability. So you don't always have to be thinking about things all the way at the top end of the product line. You can be thinking about some of these more accessible products in both Dell and NVIDIA's range. So I'm going to point to a couple of high performance machines just to show you some of the versatility of Dell's lineup. The Precision 7920 rack is very much like that 7920 tower I just showed you, but in a rack mountable format. So if you want something to be physically secure, cyber secure in your data center, this is a great way to go. And you could remote it out with, say, Teradici or something along those lines. But again, this shares similar characteristics to the 7920 tower in that it can support up to 2 processors for a total of 56 cores, CPU cores, and up to 3 RTX A6000 GPUs. So again, hugely expandable, a really amazing platform for SOLIDWORKS Visualize. So just know that this is one of the options. Now, like I said, you don't have to go all the way to the top of the line to have something that will perform well. Our Precision 5820 tower, so again, kind of in our mid-range 5000 series, this is our most popular tower in the precision range. And it's because it's got great scalability. And so this is a machine that can get up to 18 cores, Xeon processors. It supports up to a dual RTX A6000. And so remember that will get you to a total of 96 gigabytes of VRAM. So not everybody might want to start there. So the reality is that you could start with, say, a single A5000, and then add a second A5000 down the road when your performance needs increase. And of course, same is true with the RAM configuration. You can get up to 512 gigabytes, but you could start much lower and add RAM as you go. And so when we talk about expandability in the precision product lineup, it's really this what we're talking about is the physical space, the performance, the cooling, the power supplies, to actually expand as your needs expand. And so this is a really popular tower because not everybody needs our 7000 series, but this is a machine that will really achieve incredible performance levels overall. So from there, I wanted to talk a little bit about SolidWorks eDrawings Pro for VR applications. So VR, again, puts some additional demands on the workstation graphics side. And one of the things I like to point out in Dell's Precision lineup is that we have this tag, and I didn't point it out previously, but I'm going to point it out now. You see on the top left that ready for VR indication. We tag systems based on some very stringent qualifications as ready for VR. And really, that's not ready for gaming VR or folks that are trying to do goofy things at home. It's really for professionals who are using VR as part of their business to, better realize their designs and better understand the implications of their designs. And what I'll tell you is that, even our thin and lights can achieve our ready for VR capability. Now, this Precision 5760 is a great example of the kind of capability you can get. So up to 8 core processors. And what's really cool is up to a 6 gigabyte RTX A3000 graphics card. That's what's really going to drive those VR experiences, is having a higher performing a GPU that can drive both eyeballs of that VR experience. Again, this is very much like the 5560, and what you'll see across our mobile line is all of our mobile line now supports PCIe Gen 4. Now, PCIe Gen 4, why that matters is it's much higher bandwidth, moving data from disk to memory, from disk to GPU, and so forth. And so the combination of Gen 4 storage, Gen 4 graphics, and an overall Gen 4 system means higher bandwidth, higher performance overall. And as I said, all of our current mobiles are featuring that Gen 4 architecture under the hood. This 17-inch thin and light, and you can see it's just a hair under 5 pounds, 4.7 pounds, thin and light 17-inch, which is really incredible. So getting a large amount of screen real estate in a thin and light package is a pretty incredible thing. And I think people have really been blown away by the performance of this machine, including for VR types of applications. The other machine from a desktop standpoint I'd like to mention is one of the most exciting machines in our lineup today, and that's our Precision 3650 mini tower. This is a smaller tower format, decent expandability, up to a 10-core Intel Core Xeon processor, again running at 125 watts, so pretty high power, and up to NVIDIA RTX A5000 graphics. So really incredible, sort of basic functionality of decent CPU, really great GPU, and solid expandability up to 128 gigabytes of high-speed memory. This is all PCIe Gen 4 as well, and so you really get that high-performance environment. So as an overall, all-around machine, this is one of my favorites. It's a little bit less expandable than the 5820, but can really handle a solid graphics card, decent core count, lots of storage, lots of memory, in a nice mini form factor. So it's one that I don't like people to overlook, even though we consider it in our starting lineup. It really is a high level performer. The last use case that I'd like to mention is use cases that are more like on the manufacturing floor or out in the field. And these are specifically SolidWorks eDrawings, where you're viewing drawings, and draft site, where you might be sketching ideas out. So the requirements of being on a manufacturing floor or being in the field really relate to both mobility and, even more importantly, having something that's rugged and durable. And Dell has rugged options, and now just recently we've added professional NVIDIA GPUs into our rugged options. That is our Latitude 5430 rugged laptop. And so, again, this isn't not what I would call, kind of our workstation grade performance. You can see what you can get here is an up to a 4-core Intel Core i7 processor running at 28 watts. You'll notice our mobiles, generally are 6 to 8 processors in the precision lineup with running at 45 watts. So you'll see this is a little bit of a lower performer. Again, the graphics card at T500, it isn't workstation grade performance, but good expandability, storage, and memory. So you can run your drawings applications. You can run the draft site applications. But what you get is the mission critical reliability. Mil-spec tested for a 3-foot drop, IP53 rated for dust and water. You can actually hot swap batteries so it doesn't fail when you have to replace the battery, so it can be off power. So that's very exciting. And then, of course, temperature tested to extremes. This also has the option of 5G. And so really important, if you're in an environment that you need to be gloved, you can actually use the touchscreen with gloves. And again, built for an environment in bright sunlight with an 1100 nit display with pretty good coverage of the sRGB color space. So, this really is addressing a different kind of use case. And we think with the introduction of professional NVIDIA graphics in this machine, we can expect it to be used in more and more applications, given more graphics power compared to some of the other ruggeds that we've made. So we're excited to see what folks will do with it. I appreciate you spending the time with me. I want to point out a few resources here that some you may not know of and some you may not. First, you should know about SOLIDWORKS certified hardware. This link below will take you to that certified hardware, and you can search on Dell specifically. There is a filter for that. But this is something that we work specifically with the SOLIDWORKS team to ensure that we have our latest machines there with the specific GPUs and drivers, so you know exactly what's going to give you the kind of reliability that you expect. Now, we also publish that information at Dell's Precision Workstation Advisor page. You can see it at precisionworkstations.com. So that's searchable there. And we try to make this really simple by providing a one-page PDF at the link I've put here below. So these workstation recommendations, they look kind of like this, where we deliver all this information I've given you in hopefully a single, simple PDF page with good, better, best, and ultimate in both the desktop form factors and mobile form factors. And if you look carefully, what you'll see, and let me just move my image is in a bad place there, you'll see that we kind of give you a little bit more of a descriptive use case at the top. Thinking about medium-sized assemblies or medium-sized complexity, you might do some simple finite element analysis or kinematic analyses. You might do some basic visualization, and you could see the kind of specific system we would recommend and how you might select that. So just wanted to give you reference to that. And again, the link was there for you. And finally, I just want to mention, don't forget about the other components. Remember, it's not just about the computer, but the environment you surround yourself with. If you're thinking about desktops, I always talk about monitors. Having monitors that give great color fidelity when you're doing visualization is really critical. Dell makes all this stuff available. Docks, of course, for expanding the number of ports and the connectivity you might have from our mobiles, keyboards and mice, and specialty items like colorimeters for calibration or 3D mice, those sorts of things. We do have all those things available at Dell and definitely want to make them available to you. So with that, I want to thank you for your attention and time today. I hope this was informative, and certainly reach out if there are any other additional questions. Thank you very much.